Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. I know this has been like a big thing on the web recently, and it for very, very great reasons. I wanted to talk about net neutrality and how everything may or may not change. I of course hope it doesn't change because in this case, change is definitely bad. But man, it was crazy that this kind of became what it did because I'd heard about it a few days ago, and I was like, oh, it's kind of just a little thing. Like I knew what net neutrality was, but I remember it. I remember this. I want to say that had to have been like 6 or 7 years ago when this was a thing before, and I remember it being this really big deal. And I guess I was thinking of it in that sense where I was like, oh, okay, people are talking about it, but it's not, like there's nothing to worry about. And then I see everyone talking about it. I was like, no, this is, I think, worse than it was before, where I think it's technically the same, but it's scary every single time. Like I just remember, I think this was back when like G4 was still a thing. So like I said, it was, this was quite a while ago, and it was when Kevin Pereira was on for people who watch G4. So it was quite a while back, and I just remember that being a big thing, and I was like, holy crap! I really hope that that doesn't happen. Where it's like, hey, this is the internet now, and then without net neutrality, here's the internet where it's like five different sects, and it's like, okay, well, you paid for this part, but you got to pay for this, this, and this. And I really hope that this doesn't end up happening. Like if we lose net neutrality, it is going to change the internet, in the entire country, and it's going to affect certain parts of the world as well, because there, of course, are certain big websites that are made, in the United States. You have YouTube, you have Facebook, Google, as a whole, and it'll seem like something small as far as like the international scale or the global scale, but it always starts at home. If you have something where, I think YouTube is a great example. I instantly think the worst case scenario would be, excuse me, we have YouTube now. You just do what you do. You pay for the internet, and then you have YouTube. And all I can think now is if we lose net neutrality, there is no way that it's not going to end up being, here's YouTube, and then here's the different packages you can get on YouTube. Like here's all the vloggers is this much, and then all the gaming videos is like this, and then all like the self-help videos or whatever is just like this. And that's what I think is going to end up happening. And the only reason that it would affect every website individually is because of things like, well, we don't have a lot of internet service providers. That's one of the biggest things, is that it's, I forgot, there's the actual term for it. It's not a monopoly because it's more than one. But there's only two. It's like, all right, I have either AT&T or I've got Comcast. Like those are your options for internet. And so with those, with it just being those two, they can kind of do whatever they want. It's a lot like airplanes. I think it's oligarchy or oligopoly, some weird term like that. When it's more than a monopoly, it's an oligopoly or something weird. So it's crazy to think about that, and it's like this is coming up. Next month. I want to say it's on the 12th or 14th where they put in this vote, and I really hope it doesn't go through. Of course, I'm gonna have links to all the places you can go to, kind of call your pretty much anyone in your local area to say, hey, maybe don't let this go through because it's gonna change things for the worse. But man, all I can do is hope that it doesn't go through. It's not up to the individual people. It's up to the higher up. So we have to make sure that we let ourselves be heard, because this is a crazy situation that it's definitely going to affect the internet as a whole. And I just wonder, for me doing YouTube, like I don't make money from this, but I can only imagine how it's going to affect people that do actually make money. Like for me, I don't know what it would do. It would depend on how much it would cost. Like I wouldn't pay money to do this knowing that I would make nothing from it. I would probably just stop wholeheartedly, which really sucks because I love doing this, even though I kind of make nothing from it. I would love to, but I don't, and I just keep doing it because it's like, well, that's what I want to do, and it's also a simple way. Even if I don't make money, it's a way for me to kind of have things out there. Every once in a while, I'll make some fancy video and be like, yeah, I can use that later. I would just re-download it or something, and it's like, all right, I have that now. If I want to make a portfolio later or just kind of show off random skills, at some point, you can do that because that's partly that is what YouTube is for. So you can just kind of have your skills randomly thrown out there, and that would definitely change. If things happen, we lose net neutrality. That would definitely change how YouTube works. And then of course you have certain companies where it's like either AT&T or Comcast. And it's like, all right, well, we have as AT&T this deal with Netflix, and then Comcast has a deal with Amazon. So if you have one, it would be like, all right, Netflix is great, but I have to pay more for Amazon to work. And then if you have the other, it's the reverse, where it's like, all right, Amazon, fly through one click, one click shopping, and then Netflix is super duper slow, which is something that's already happened where, you know, certain companies, the two, certain internet providers have basically been like, hey, Netflix, you need to kind of pay up, and then when people go to Netflix, it'll be, you know, back to normal, because there's like a chart, I don't know where exactly where it is, but there's a chart where it shows like the speeds were just going down and down and down, and then eventually they paid, because it's like, well, if we don't pay, no one will keep going to Netflix because it'll just be super slow, and then speeds went right back up because they paid that extra fee that the service providers were kind of forcing them, you know, into paying. So, you know, it kind of sucks. We don't have, you know, many options. You got pretty much two. There are other internet service providers, like WoW is actually a fairly decent service, but it also just depends on where you are. Some places, you know, you just can't get internet. There's been stories where, you know, if you're not in the city, I can't remember when this was, but there's some crazy story where a guy lived, like, you know, he lived like way out, you know, outside of the city, kind of like farmland, and it was like, all right, I want the internet, and they were gonna charge him like $100,000 or some insane amount of money because it was like way out. It's like, there's really no reason for that, and they tried to give him like some stupid discounts, like you're charging like almost 100,000. I was like, all right, well, we can knock off like a few $100s, but that's what they were trying to charge just because, you know, what they would have to do to get the internet out there. And it's like, that's just how it is. You know, they have that power. If you are not in that certain area, you just won't get it, or you'll pay an insane amount of money to have it. So if we have no net neutrality, it'll be that for everyone, whether you're in the city or not. The internet, you know, like the source of the internet could be right next door, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. We're gonna just cap off your speeds for this, this, and this. And we already kind of have sucking internet. Admittedly, for people who don't know, as far as the U.S., there are other places where the internet is definitely better, where, you know, there aren't little behind the scenes things where the internet is slowed down based on what site you're going to, based on which provider you have. That's a thing that's already happened. Like I said, the Netflix thing is like my prime example because I know it for sure, but there are other, you know, smaller examples you can definitely look up. So, you know, like I said, I just wanted to kind of do this video and spread it as much as I can, I guess, you know, just say, hey, get out there, definitely be heard, because if we aren't, then this is one of those things that I don't think could possibly go back. I mean, if we're not voting on it, it's not just like it's up to the country to decide. It's not one of those sorts of votes. It's one of those things that's really hard to, you know, get reversed. If it's not up to every individual person within the country to vote on it, it's not during, you know, your normal elections where it's like, all right, you know, your local stuff. If it's not during that, then, you know, and it's not directly up to us, then it's tough to switch it back. You know, sometimes that can work in our favor, where something good will happen, and it's like, you know, it's hard for certain people to kind of reverse that and, you know, make it bad again. But, you know, good and bad, like if it's not up to us individually during an election to be like this yes or this no, it's real tough to change it back, and especially when it involves money, it's nearly impossible. So we gotta be heard, and I'm freaking out, honestly, because I was worried when it happened before, and I think now I'm older, because, you know, back then I understood what it meant, but now it's like, you know, especially doing YouTube, even as just a hobby, I'm on the internet a lot more, using social media, trying to utilize that, not even just to, you know, just post random videos, but I utilize that for photography, you know, trying to get my name out there, just having a place where people can just see what I can do. And it's just like, man, that is definitely something that can change. Even as simple, you know, like Instagram is like the simplest example. Even that could end up being something totally different. And all you do is post pictures and like tiny videos on there. And it's just like, it's insane to think that that could even change drastically if there's no longer net neutrality. So definitely get out there. Definitely make sure it is known that you do not want that. Because it'll be crazy. Like, things will change. Like, YouTube will definitely change, but it's just across the board. Things will just be very different, and you'll have to pay. I mean, the internet would become cable. Like, you would have to pay this much for this package and this much for this package. Maybe it'll be like, you know, you get certain websites, and then you have to pay extra to be able to go to another website, or, you know, it'll just be locked off completely, or it'll be like so insanely slow it's not even worth going to anymore, and they'll kind of just, it'll be that sort of, you know, almost like an indoctrination to force you to pay, where it's like, hey, you want it to be good, so you have to pay, because that's the only way it works. And if this law passes, that will be how it is, because at this point, it could just be whatever, and it could be even better than it is, but, you know, the companies are already doing that sort of thing behind the scenes to make it a little bit slower, to make it a little bit worse, you know, going to this website versus that website and stuff like that, because man, it comes down to money, and people will just do whatever to screw the masses over, and that's just how it is. So get out there, let your people know. Call the numbers, congressmen, congresswomen, whoever, whatever. If there's a title, you should probably call them and say, hey, please don't let this happen. So just had to do a video. I know there are already a million out there, and there's posts on Twitter, Facebook, all over the place. But I figured might as well just add another video to that, to the couple of people that might see this. So definitely get out there. I have some links in the description, so you can put your information in. It'll kind of just help you out to make the process faster, so you don't have to do the research. I'll just put the links in to help you out. But definitely let it be known, because if we lose net neutrality, I have no idea what the internet is going to become in the U.S. Like, it's really crazy to think what it might be. And of course, like I said, with certain sites being global, like YouTube or Facebook, Google, things like that, it will change stuff worldwide. So I really hope it doesn't end up happening, because things are good how they are right now. Like, that sense of freedom being destroyed is crazy. It's the internet is, I think what we have is probably the greatest sense of actual freedom. Globally speaking, I think is probably the greatest sense of freedom that we have. And to have that, get twisted into something where it becomes more business-like than it already is, yes, I can't say it's dangerous, but it's just a really bad precedent to say, like, all right, well, we got the internet now, so, and that's a global thing. And granted, like I said, it's not every country doing that, but, it'll definitely affect us here the most. But still, it's a big deal. It's definitely a huge deal. So like I said, just try to help, get your voice out there. Definitely let it be known that net neutrality is just what we need. It's how it needs to be, because if it's not neutral, then that means it's biased in some way, shape, or form. So that's about as simple as it can get. But like I said, just get out there. If you guys have any comments, of course, please put them down in the comment section below. And naturally, thanks for watching.